Members, the chair's having some difficulty logging on, but he'll try and get on shortly. So we'll just give him a few minutes.
Okay, members, can everybody hear me okay?
We can, Chair.
Yeah, members, apologies. Just had a wee bit of difficulty logging on there. Members, just like to welcome you all to this month's Environment Regeneration meeting. Well, item 1 is the summons, Connor, if you'd like to proceed.
Thanks, Chair. To all members of the Environment Regeneration Committee, you are hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Environment and Regeneration Committee to be held remotely on Wednesday, 9th of February 2022 at 4 p.m. And I'll take the roll. Alderman Devaney.
Here, Connor.
Alderman Hussey.
Here.
Alderman Kerrigan.
Here, Connor.
Alderman Ramsey.
Here, Connor.
Councillor Boyle.
Here.
Councillor Dobbins. Councillor Edwards.
Here, Connor.
Okay, got that, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Ferguson.
Here, Connor.
Councillor Jackson.
And Shaw, Connor.
Councillor Kelly.
And Shaw Connor.
Councillor McGinley.
And Shaw Connor.
Councillor McHugh.
Here.
Councillor O'Neill. And Councillor Tierney.
Here, Connor.
Okay, Chair.
Connor, there's apologies sent to me on behalf of Councillor Dobbins. And we send her good wishes because she informs us she's back in the hospital. So hopefully she has a speedy recovery. It's not too serious.
Okay, Chair, I've recorded that.
Item 3, Connor, is the broadcasting statement. Have you got it?
Yeah, I'll read it out.
Thank you.
I would like to remind everyone who is in remote attendance that this meeting will be broadcast live via the Council's YouTube channel and will be available for viewing by the public and media. The broadcast will also be available for repeated viewing at a later date. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with Council protocol. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. By participating in this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website www.derrystrabane.com.
Okay, thanks for that, Connor. Members, item 3 is declarations of members' interest. You can declare now or put them on the chat box as we proceed. Any members to declare? Councillor Kelly has in the chat box there Item 15, non-pecuniary interest.
Chair, Alderman Devaney here. Could my name be included in that as well for item 15?
Yeah, Alderman Devaney, item 15 also, and Alderman Kerrigan is a non-pecuniary interest declared in item 5. Okay, members, that brings us now to item 5, which is our presentation from representatives of Recycle for KC Northern Ireland, and I see a Vicky, is it Sevoy Crockett in the meeting? I presume, is she your presenter, Connor?
I am. Hello.
Yes, Chair.
Yeah, and apologies if I didn't pronounce your name correctly there, Vicky.
Yeah, you did a great job.
You're very welcome to our meeting today. Usually we allow for roughly 10 minutes, but you know, we're not too hard and fast with that. So the floor is yours, Vicky. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me along today. I hope you find it interesting. I do talk very quickly, so if I am going too fast, please just put it into the chat there, and I'll try and slow down. I'm also having technology issues, so I have lots of bits of paperwork to read to you. So my name's Vicky. I'm here to tell you about our work as Recycle for KC, Northern Ireland. And basically, we've raised over £11,000 with Terracycle by recycling rubbish. So my mum always taught me never to waste. And I worked in my local waste and recycling department for a while. I know what your jobs are like. And I was always conscious of litter and landfill. When my son William was born in 2014, I went to bin a baby white packet and I thought, what a waste. And that's when I remembered the charity Kicks Count. And I used their website during my pregnancy, and I had read about their fundraising with Terracycle. So on to the next slide. Kicks Count is a UK charity, and it's working to reduce the UK stillbirth rates. I don't represent them, I'm not connected to the charity, but their advice is why my 7-year-old is with us today, and is my passion behind the project. So the UK stillbirth figures are slowly falling, but still 7 babies every day in the UK are born sleeping. It's not just about the 7 babies, it's 7 mums, 7 dads, the grandparents, the siblings, the aunts, the uncles. It still has a huge effect on our country. Only 10% of stillbirths are caused by a fatal congenital abnormality, which means there is the potential to save up to 90% of that. And 50% of those mothers who did have a stillbirth had experienced a reduction in baby movements beforehand. So Kicks Count's job really is to raise awareness of baby movements, to try and prevent this from happening, and give women the confidence to trust their instinct and seek medical help. Now, Terracycle is, on to the next slide, please. I feel like Chris Whitty. Terracycle is a global commercial business, and the idea is trying to eliminate the idea of waste. We all know that disposable plastic is a problem. Plastic toothbrushes, for example, take 500 years to degrade, so every single one ever used still exists. Terracycle say that with enough creativity and money, everything is recyclable, and they have a few ways of doing that. Now, the first way they do it is by teaming up with brands and working directly with them. So, for example, Mattel, Gillette, and High Five all have free post envelopes that you can order for their products. Boots Opticians works to recycle contact lenses, and Superdrug with pharmacies offer medicine blister pack recycling. Now, we used to do the medicine blister pack recycling. It was hugely popular here in Northern Ireland. I'm sure you've all heard about it. The only Superdrug in Northern Ireland with a pharmacy is the one in Foyleside, which means that if you live in Belfast, all the blister packs need to go to Derry. And this is logistically a nightmare. People are finding that very frustrating. There was a huge demand across the country. We still get some mistakenly, and we pass them to our hub in Derry, and she has a backlog of things that we're trying to get down to Superdrug. So if the council is able to do anything about this, I would really recommend that medicine blister packs is the one thing they look at. The reason they took it away from individuals like myself was because of commercial waste. There was waste coming directly from pharmacies. Also to do with having medical residue in personal homes. There's issues about people maybe wanting to break in. The correct handling, any liability if any children, for example, had got hold of that. So I would definitely recommend that the committee has a look at medicine blister pack recycling. So the second way that Terracycle does its work is by making and selling zero waste boxes. Now, these aren't always available in Northern Ireland. The individuals and companies will then have to buy the boxes. These are single use, they can cost about £100 each. And it just puts the burden on the consumer, which isn't really viable on a larger scale. So the third way that Terracycle operates is with free recycling programs, and they have incentives for charities and organisations. So there's a limited amount of free programs that anyone can join, and the cost burden is borne by big brand producers. So for example, the recycling of any brand of crisp packet is paid for by Walkers. Sweets are paid by Nestle, and biscuits by Pladis, which is McVitie's, Jacobs, and I can't remember the third one. So some brands create programs that will only take their own packaging, and in that category we have Pringles, Kinder, and Ferrero. So in addition to paying for the processing of this recycling, the brands also pay a set amount to collectors like myself who facilitate it, and that money comes as a form of a donation towards a chosen charity. If we go to the next slide, please. So this third option is what we do here for Kicks Count. We use social media to ask people to save certain products and bag them up according to the programme. We recommend that people use bread bags or cereal bags, and you can see on the screen some of the ways that people do that. Jennifer and Balamina here, she has all these bread bags on the back of her door. That saves her space. Somebody else has used a shoe storage to get the certain categories. Once these bags are full, people drop them off to our collection points. We have collection points all over Northern Ireland now. We collect them, and then the items are stored here until we have enough to meet the minimum weight set by Terracycle. Then we download free post labels, we book a UPS collection, and the waste leaves us here. If we could go to the next slide. So this map here shows the location of our existing drop-off points. You'll see in Derry we have Rutha Callahan, and we also have Ruth Kerrigan in Castle Dirk. The boxes you see here are what we send usually every fortnight. So each picture shows around 100 kilograms of waste, which means that every month we are saving the weight of an upright piano. If we go to the next slide. Every month, that is enough boxes to fill a 6-yard skip. And on to the next slide. So these are a few images taken from Terracycle website, which shows what happens to the waste once it arrives into the depot. They use the Suez depot in England, and the boxes are weighed when they arrive to calculate how much we've sent, and the points are added to our accounts. We redeem these points twice a year, and a cheque is sent directly to the charity, so we don't have to deal with any of the finances. It goes directly from Terracycle straight to Kicks Count every 6 months. So here the rubbish is compressed and baled, and then it accumulates until it's commercially viable to sell on. Generally then the plastic is shredded, washed, and remoulded into things like plastic bins, furniture, or plastic playground equipment. If we go to the next slide, please. So the process isn't easy. If you've had a chance to look at the Terracycle website before this meeting, you'll know the website is not user-friendly. There's no clear accepted waste programme information. There's no method to search for one collector and see everything they take. Programs have a limited number of spaces, they change frequently, and you can only apply for a program if there's nobody else around you within a few miles. The minimum weights require space. For example, crisp, we have to send at least 12 kilograms, and you have to send off every 6 months to stay on a program. So people like schools who get involved in this don't usually accumulate as much as that. Just today, we heard that the Walker's Crisp program is ending in April, and last week it was baby food packet pouches. And this is because supermarket recycling is taking over. The Flexible Plastic Fund is great. It makes it much easier for people, but there is a strong concern in my group of people who do this for us about what actually happens to that waste. There's not a great deal of faith in the supermarkets. It's hard to know what the future of Terracycle is going to be. I would imagine that supermarket recycling is the way forward, but we're going to keep slogging away as we can for now. The reason I think that our recycle group has grown so much is because we're a one-stop shop. We've been around for 7 years now, and we're on most programs. We try to make it user-friendly for people. We have convenient drop-off points in most towns now, and we have quick responses to Facebook queries. There are other Terracycle groups in Northern Ireland. We're the largest, which means that we can send off the most frequently. We have over 4,400 members, and we're actually one of the largest groups in the UK now. In the early days, we used to beg people to give us their rubbish, and we were really pleased to raise about £150 every 6 months. Now people reach out to us, they offer to help us, and we raise roughly £2,000 every half year. So the money we raise funds information handouts for individuals, midwives, doctors' surgeries, and hospitals. I personally know of babies that have been saved of as a direct result of our recycling group, because every time we talk about Recycle for KC Northern Ireland, we're talking about the charity Kicks Count as well. The reason we abbreviate it to KC is because it is a medical charity. If somebody needs to get medical advice quickly, we'd rather they found the charity rather than us. Since the COVID pandemic began, our activity has really boomed. People became more aware of us when they spent more time on social media, and people thought more about the environment, I think. But the other reason the group is so successful, in my opinion, is that we're grassroots. Ordinary people are just doing something small, which is adding up to something big. And the other great thing is this is something that everybody can do. It's cross-community. We don't ask for any money. People just give us something that everybody has, which is their rubbish. So as of January 2022, we had recycled over 350,000 crisp packets, 350,000 sweet wrappers, 250,000 biscuit wrappers, 100,000 bread bags, and 80,000 disposable gloves. In the last 12 months, we've raised £5,000 with Terracycle, sending roughly 600 boxes each year and preventing 2,500 kilograms of single-use plastic ending up in landfill. To me, this shows the power of individuals and the desire to do better with our rubbish. Derry and Strabane has always led the way in this, certainly with the zero waste movement, and we'd love to see the council promote Terracycle a little bit more. Many of the items that we have on this list here are ones that you would find littering the streets or clogging the waterways. So if we can encourage people to donate rather than dump, we can help keep Northern Ireland beautiful and prompt change. For many people, this is just the first step on their journey, raising awareness of their plastic consumption and starting the process of cutting down. When you start saving your crisp packets, you realise actually how many you get through in a week. And it really does make people start to think about the waste, and then they start thinking about other things as well that they can cut out. We also use the group to signpost to other waste reduction activities, such as free cycle, repair cafes. Obviously, the supermarket recycling has become a hot topic, the Binnovation app, and zero waste and refill shops to try and prevent the plastic being used in the first place. I'm not a recycling expert. I'm a mum and a childminder. I'm actually working right now. My assistant is downstairs with the kids. We do this in our free time at our home near Mackerrow. We have a 7-year-old. Me and my husband both work full time, so we rely on a network of amazing volunteers who help us cover areas that we can't easily reach. Some people store the waste until we get there, and we call them hubs, and we have the 2 routes in Derry and Strabane. And then George, my husband, would visit the big towns roughly every 4 to 6 weeks on his days off. Other people transport waste from certain locations. So, for example, we have Helen Toome, who runs Live Here, Love Here. She delivers the waste down from Belfast and Bangor roughly every 2 or 3 weeks. It does take a lot of time and money and also energy. The money we need for petrol, bins and tapes. We looked at how we can make the groups more sustainable. So we set up a PayPal group for anyone who wants to contribute to any costs. And then in January 2021, DERA reached out through Live Here, Love Here. They recognised the value of what we do and they wanted to support us, and they gave us £4,000 worth of funding. Now, we thought long and hard about what we should use this for, and we decided to spend it on 1,100 litre bins. So we had 10 bins, which we put into new towns that didn't previously have a collection point, and this led us to reach new communities. These bins have had a huge impact. They allow people to drop off to us whenever they're passing, whenever it's convenient to them, and it allows us to collect whenever it's convenient to us. We're aware of our carbon footprint. We do try and collect, for example, in Oma when we go to the Folk Museum with our son. These bins are usually sited at private locations. We find we get much better quality recycling when people can only find the bins through us, because it prevents contamination from passers-by, and also people only find the bins by joining the group, which means they fully understand what we're doing. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see Ruth's dairy bin. This bin is full like this, usually once a month. It's actually a little bit busier at the moment because of the post-Christmas rush. We have a lot of Pringles. Ruth also gets a lot of can recycling there, and there's some blister packs, which she slowly filters down to Superdrug. Her waste is really pre-sorted and really accurate. She has a WhatsApp group where people just ask questions if they're not sure about things, and that group has got over 48 members. The bin is really convenient for us, it's really convenient with other people, and I have to say it's working really well. So Ruth Kerrigan, she's in Castledurg. This is her outdoor gates here. She has this outdoor storage where people drop off, and then she takes it into her house, and you can see in her kitchen there, she's got it all laid out. I think Ruth's actually next to Keith, if she wanted to say a little bit about that.
Hiya, yeah. I've been doing this, I suppose, about 2.5 years now, collecting and recycling, and have maybe up about a dozen people or so that would pass the recycling to myself, and then between the utility room and the kitchen, then store it until it's time to pass it up to Oma, to the hub up there, and then Vicky can come down and collect it. So again, storage being the problem, if I had a bit more storage facilities, then I could collect from more people and save more waste from landfill. But at the minute. It's not feasible to have much more, take on much more than what I have. But certainly the likes of the Dara bins would be ideal. And I've noticed a great reduction in what's ending up in my landfill here as a household since I started doing it, and the children are all getting used to it, and got the local primary school involved, and I had been involved in the local Cub Scout group, and they'd been involved in it too this past couple of years. So it's just getting the word out and spreading the news about it. And the more people hear about it, and the more the collection points are convenient to them, then the more they're willing to participate in it. Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Ruth. I would agree with that. We have a lot of schools that recycle for us. We have Beavers, we have BB, we have lots of different areas of the community that get involved in this. Storage is a big issue. People don't want to be having rubbish in their house for too long. Rubbish that's outside too long will get wet. Again, this being my home, it comes into the house. We also have issues with rodents in certain areas. So these bins, even 240 litre bins, make a huge difference. Just having somewhere safe and secure where the rubbish can be stored until it's processed. There is a huge community support across the whole community area. I've been blown away by how many people are getting involved, and every day we're getting new members. It's definitely getting busier. We would ask the council to promote our group within the area. We know that the council is very good at waste reduction, and the zero waste element of Derry and Strabane is phenomenal. I would say it's a leader within Northern Ireland. We would love to see more of Terracycle awareness across the whole country, but especially in the council area. We would also ask the council to signpost to our existing collection points. Our goal is to have more bins at each area to increase our capacity, but also so that our output is increased without having to significantly increase our input. We don't want to be driving around all the time collecting rubbish when we can just do it in one big go. A contribution to fuel would also be really helpful, but I'm not going to push my luck here. We don't know what the future of Terracycle is. I think just really awareness and storage would be a big help to begin with. If the council would consider that, we would then be able to provide statistics on the amount of waste that we lift from your council area, perhaps on a quarterly basis, and then see how that grows over time. We could then look at maybe having more collection points. One of the things that Causeway is considering right now is having bins available for community groups to start doing this, and then they've arranged for their workers to collect the waste to put it into one space so that we can just go and collect from one collection point. To me, Terracycle is a win-win. The future is uncertain, but we will keep going as long as we can. It helps the council, reducing the landfill tax, saving money and raising money for a good cause. As we said there, the impact on small individual homes as well is noticeable. I'm a childminder. I have 6 kids here every day. My kitchen bin will usually last me a good 2 months. It doesn't have a huge impact. Why would you send waste to landfill when you can help the planet and help babies? So we're going to keep going, and we hope that you find a way of supporting us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vicky. Very, very informative, and it's true saying you learn something new every day, because it's something that certainly I was not aware of, but found that very interesting. So thanks to yourself and to Ruth also. I'll now open it up to members for comments or questions. I see you have a few in the chat box here already. Just bring this up here. First indicated speaker here is Alderman Hussey. Go ahead, Derek.
Thank you, Chair. Vicky and Ruth, thank you very much indeed. It was very useful to have the presentation prior to the meeting to go through some of the detail there. I suppose the basic question as a councillor is, what is your ask from council? And I'm beginning to gather that it's assistance at signposting to yourselves, getting the word out there to individuals, and I know Connor's on there, maybe a couple of bins here and there might be useful. It's not much of an act, to be honest. But I have to say a big well done and thank you to those who are involved in your scheme, and to encourage people to join onto the scheme. I know some of the work that Ruth does. Ruth's just over the hill behind me here. So I know some of that work that's going on there. Quick question. How do you envisage the supermarket impact on the work that you do, and indeed on your flow through of materials, which of course then impacts on your finances, because you have a double aim of helping the environment, but also gaining finance for the charity. I've noticed some of the supermarkets are now putting in collection points for this, and I presume they're doing it for economic reasons, to be totally honest. So how do you see that impacting on the work that you will have going forward? But thanks very much for a very, very informative presentation to you both, Vicky and Ruth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, we've been doing this for over 7 years now. We have a shoestring budget. We have managed fine up until now. The boom has led to financial strain on terms of fuel and the amount of tape we get through packaging up the boxes, that sort of thing. But we don't think we're asking for very much. Yes, some signposting and some help with storage would be amazing. With regard to supermarkets, I don't know, to be honest. Within the group, there's a lot of skepticism about what's actually used, what that waste actually becomes. So people, I think, they would rather give us things because they know that it's going to be processed better. If a charity is going to be paying and giving money for the rubbish, there's that extra assurance that it's actually going to be used. With regards to Tesco Co-op, there's talk of Poland, there's talk of various things. Lidl completely baffles me. I have got no idea what's going on there. The supermarkets won't tell you what happens to their waste. It's commercially sensitive. There's very little confidence. If people can give to us, they will. There are people who struggle with the concept. You only have to walk past a little bin and have a look at the plastic recycling to see the paper towels in there. You'll see the contamination. People aren't great with it. I don't believe that the supermarket recycling is going to be of a high enough quality to be processed effectively. So whilst I think we will still have demand for Terracycle, the problem is going to be from Terracycle's end. The crisp packet program is ending, the baby food patch is ending, because the companies don't want to pay twice. Why would they pay Terracycle to process it and also pay into the flexible plastic fund? And that's something that I can't change. That's between the brands and Terracycle. All I can do is what we're doing and just keep plugging on and hope that there's still a demand for the various programs and there's still a program available for us to do this.
That's great, Vicky. Thanks very much.
Our next indicated speaker is Councillor Jackson. Go ahead there, Chris.
Okay, thanks, Chair, and I just want to thank Vicky and Ruth for the presentation and for the fantastic work that you are doing, not only in maintaining this service and reducing landfill across the north and within our council area, but raising awareness for a very important charity, and that's something that I want to commend you yourself, Vicky, on and the work that you're doing. I was going to ask a question around the supermarket recycling, but I think you've answered it, and it would be unfair to ask you a question again that you're unsure of. But I just want to reiterate the point that this is ordinary people that are playing a small part, but an important part in a much bigger initiative. And I think that's a message for us all, that these small measures that we can take, small individual efforts could play a role in a much bigger effort, a much bigger initiative around making the environment a better place, and reducing what goes in the landfill. And you used the example of the baby wipes, and I suppose we could all go through our daily lives and look at different individual items, and it's shocking when you recognize how much of that goes into landfill. So it's worrying that the future of Terracycle isn't as secure as we would like it to be. But I see what the work that you're doing and other people that are part of the group. I see that as something that is a clear benefit to council. So if there is a role for council to support yourselves, it's something that we would be supportive of, because we do need to change mindsets, and the work that yourself is doing and the group is doing, engaging with schools and engaging with youth scout organisations, that's changing mindsets. It's making people think twice about waste, and that needs to continue regardless of supermarket recycling or the future of Terracycle. We need to every single one of us needs to think about the way we dispose of waste and think differently around how waste is managed. So I hope to hear a lot more of the group. I hope to see a lot more Terracycle drop-off points within our council area, and I wish you best going forward. So thank you, Vicky, and I have no doubt that our council will be supportive if there's any role for us at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, the idea of waste, I mean, the rubbish that comes to us isn't rubbish, it is potential money. Biscuit wrappers, crisp wrappers, to us it's all money. Changing that mindset is a really important thing, and hopefully that has started to happen. You said about the individuals going out of their way. That's 4,400 people in our Facebook group that just don't chuck something in the bin. Now, when you finish something, you just throw it away. It's just habit. And these people are all individually putting themselves out to go and do something different with it. They have to inconvenience themselves. They have to save it. They have to put it somewhere else. They have to transport it to a collection point. And if you go back to that map, I've even lost count of how many collection points, but I think there's about 30, maybe 40, possibly even 50 people in Northern Ireland who are willing to take waste from other people they don't know, just to pass it on to us. And that to me is just incredible. And it shows the demand that there is for reducing landfill and helping the charity.
Councillor Ferguson, you're next in line. Go ahead, Rachel.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Vicky and Ruth, for the presentation. And I really must commend you. I had a chance to look through it beforehand, and I was on all the websites. And even your story, Vicky, back in 2014, that you wanted a better future for your son, and you proactively set this scheme up. And for the benefit of Kicks Count. I think that's such an amazing charity. And too many times do we see women feel that they don't want to be a nuisance and go and be seen whenever they think their baby isn't moving as much as they had been previously. I've done it myself with my first pregnancy, obsessed counting movements every night, coming up with ideas of orange juice and icy water just to try and get those counts and those movements on before getting to sleep. So I think it's amazing. And the work that they do, they provide so many different structures for babies, baby movements, making awareness of that. They do the campaigns around Dad's Grief too. They're helping parents with rainbow pregnancies. Their wee support package there where you get the movement counter included, because that's stressful for families, after losing a baby through miscarriage or stillbirth. So I do commend you on, the scheme. It's something our party and my colleague had brought to the council before to look at ways that we could even use Terracycle, because there is so much that doesn't go through our recycling, and now we know that these products can be reused. I feel now, seeing the great work you are doing, that it could be explored more by council, and fully support any way that we could do that, how we could help it, storage, or even I was thinking, asking your thoughts around the Innovation app and seeing whether or not that's something that we can maybe highlight to people, that there are Terracycle drop-off points within our district. I'm also wondering, is there any way in which we could promote through our green flag schools, our council officers help, so that we can make awareness to schools that they could also become a drop-off point and store stuff. I'd love to hear your thoughts around that, and kind of like the other councillors before me and aldermen before me, anything we could do. This is something we love doing in our council. We love to kind of set the trend when it comes to recycling and climate change, and really push the envelope. I'm sure Connor's probably not too happy with me saying that because he knows it's more work for the team, but anything at all. So just your thoughts on how, like through the Innovation app or through the green flags, how we could help in any way. And again, great work from yourselves and everybody in the 4,000 and over 4,000 people on the Facebook group. I did go on and have a look. So I am now thinking of pinning some bread packets up to my door and trying to sort it out myself. But no, I really appreciate you coming and thank you again.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the Innovation app, Mid-Ulster, I actually contacted them a couple of years ago and asked them if they would put an option on there. I can understand why they don't push it so much. They don't want to be seen to support certain charities. One of the ways they've got around that is by changing the Innovation app to say there may be Terracycle options available in your local area. Please have a look at the website, which I think is a really good way of supporting all Terracycle groups without particularly focusing on one or the other. In terms of the green flag, yes, Live Here, Love Here have been amazingly supportive. The Eco Schools scheme loves this sort of thing. It helps them. That is definitely one way to promote it. Getting kids to get involved in this, to me, is one of the most important things. As a childminder, there's one kid that used to come to my house, and I remember one day he went to win a popcorn packet, and I freaked out. I was like, "No, what are you doing? We recycle those." And the poor kid looked like he'd been like a deer in the headlights. Anyway, the next week he came and he goes, "Vicky, where should I put this?" And he put it in the recycling thing, and now he still collects. It's school lunchtime. They go and collect the packets, and then they bring them to me after school. So yeah, definitely getting the kids involved, getting them thinking about the future. With regards to getting the council involved, I would have zero problem with the council taking on Terracycle for their own benefit. I know you said about the Zero Waste Northwest in the chat group there. I know they looked at doing it a little while ago. I would have no problem with that. There's enough rubbish in this world that it wouldn't be taking anything away from the charity, and it would actually relieve some of the burden on us. So if the council would like to consider that option, we would have no problem with that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Next up, we have Councillor O'Neill.
Chair, thank you so much, Vicky, for your excellent presentation and for the excellent work that you're doing and the countless volunteers you're doing, and particularly the two Ruths in this council area. I'm in Zero Waste Northwest, as I'd said in the chat box there, with Ruth, and her passion for this is incredible, as is yours, which and the other Ruths which I've seen today. I think this just really is great evidence of what happens when we source separate our recycle our resources, so that we can then reprocess them in a way that makes money, that is valuable, and in a way that we're not wasting resources. So this is definitely zero waste in action, and at its best, and it's really being led from the community, by the community. And I think the success in this program shows that when we do source separate our recycle or our resources, I don't like calling it waste, because waste is only waste if you waste it, really. So when we do source separate our resources, it's actually easier. The crisps go in the bag with the crisps, or the bread bag with the crisps, the other things going, it's so much easier to do it. So the contamination, there's less risk of contamination because it's actually simpler when there's more options in that way. And when you know the journey of waste, that really buys you in. So that's where transparency in our waste streams is really, really key. And I think this is a really good working model at the moment. But as every model has the potential to evolve. And I have lots of questions, but I don't know if you'll be able to answer them, Vicky, in terms of the potential for at the moment this is going over to England, to a place where it's compacted and things. What is the potential for these resources to stay on this island? What is the potential for reprocessors on this island to develop in a way that then they can utilize these resources and reprocess them, so that they're not then leakage from our zero waste circular economy in a way. I definitely have a lot of questions over the supermarket recycling, like yourself, and I think we as a council should write to supermarkets, to get really good transparent information on this, which is really important. I think if people are going to change from a really clear, transparent system to that system, sorry, just looking at my notes here. I think there's just really, really great potential in this. I think these are really leading by example. And I suppose in the potential as well, again, Connor might be able to answer this in terms of the big facility that the Northwest Regional Waste Management Group are developing. Is there potential for the collection of these, real distinct waste streams to then sell them off in a way that like our council can then make money? Because as you say, Vicky, this is just absolutely growing, and more people are getting involved, and like which is absolutely brilliant. So to have like these centres in each different locality, rather than having the one in Mahara where you are, and then having one in the and just like only less places in the north, having like growing in a way that there's less travel for these resources, all across the north, really. So the last point, I knew there was something I wanted to ask. It was around extended producer responsibility. So I think like if we take the pharmacies and the blister packs and medication as an example, like there is, like, I know that laws are coming in around extended producer responsibility, and if I think of the pharmaceutical industry and companies, they make a lot of money, yet they're making a lot of waste, which is costing our public authorities, a lot of money. And I know there's been a lot of challenges. Ruth has talked to me about this around the collection of those blister packs here, because only Superdrug and Dairy, as you explained, can take these. And in a way, like, there's a problem. Like, how can that be solved by by pharmacies actually taking responsibility for how they make blister packs, how they make sets of tablets? Because surely there's a design flaw there if they're not able to be collected. Like, how can things be redesigned in a way that that resource can be not wasted in a way and sent to landfill? So again, if you can't answer any of those questions, that's fine, but like, absolutely brilliant work, well done.
Thank you very much. I would completely agree with what you say about the separation of waste. I think that's a key point, and that's why I'm so skeptical of the supermarkets, and also the transparency. We absolutely have to know what's happening to that waste and have a relative certainty. I can't say for certain that Terracycle does what they say they do, but I believe from what I've said, whereas the supermarkets, they really have very little. With regards to the having a facility over here, my Englishness here might help. I know that Lidl, they do plastic recycling on the island of Ireland, and they do that through an Irish company. So I don't know whether it'd be worth trying to figure out what happens with their waste and seeing whether that's something that whether we can maybe reach out to their recycling contractor and work out what happens there. With regards to medicine blister packs, yeah, big problem. If we could get them recycled over here, that'd be brilliant. If they could have an alternative, whatever happened to glass bottles, they could easily be recycled. And there's obviously a reason behind that. The big questions, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I can't help with those, but hopefully you guys will have some thoughts on be able to move that forward. But certainly, I love the idea of having different hubs in different towns. Whilst I really enjoy doing this, it has become crazy busy. And I would love to see people doing what we do in different towns to reduce that transport, reduce that cost, and also give me some family time back.
Councillor Martin Riley.
Thanks very much, Chair, for bringing me in, and thanks to Vicky and to Ruth for coming along this afternoon to present to us. I suppose one of the things about speaking in a list like this of elected members, that I now have to recycle the lines that others have said ahead of me, because I just want to congratulate you in relation to the double congratulations, in terms of the work that you do for the environment and taking all of this waste out of a stream where it could end up in landfill or end up not being used properly, and diverting it into where it should be used in terms of recycling and putting it to good use again, and then obviously raising money for a very worthwhile and important charity. So there's two very good reasons why people logged on today. I'm not a member of this committee, but I logged on specifically to hear your presentation and to wish you well. I suppose in relation to what has been said already. I think council definitely does, as others have said before me, need to support you in whatever way we can, be it either by providing drop-off points or getting the information out there, indeed even through our social media channels in relation to what is available and how people can recycle, because I think you're right, people do want to do it, they just need to know where to go and how to do it. And the links that you had in your presentation that were circulated in advance were very useful, just to get that opportunity to learn more and to network more about what's available in each area. So thanks very much for that. I suppose a quick question in relation to the recyclate that you have, and maybe this isn't just for you, it might be for Connor from council as well, but in terms of shredded paper, is that something that you're able to collect? And if not, if Connor is able to give a little bit more information about what we can do with shredded paper. I'm conscious small amounts are able to be put into the brown bins, but for people that are working from home now that have more paper in their home than would have been the case before, often that working from home documentation has to be shredded, has to be maintained and treated with a confidential disposal. So I'm just wondering, is that something that council is concerned about in terms of excess shredded paper? And is it something that you, Vicky, might be able to comment on in relation to any opportunities to recycle that so that it's not lost in terms of the value? So, but as I said, thank you very much for the presentation. Very interesting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So shredded paper, Terracycle mostly concerns itself with single-use plastic. So paper isn't something they would take. There are a few things where generally they take things that the council is not financially viable for the council to take. There's a few things, for example, cardboard in the Gentle programme, but generally no, we wouldn't take anything like paper. I suspect I'm going to know what Connor's going to say, but from my history in waste and recycling, the issue with shredded paper was always it blowing away when the bins were being emptied. But I'll pass that over to the expert.
Connor, are you?
Chair, I'm happy to come in, but I see that Alderman Hussey has a question. I'm happy to come after that if he wants to go ahead with his question first.
Chair, I'm mindful that Alderman Kerrigan is also looking in.
Maybe just if we'll take the councillors first and then bring Connor on at the end for his comments and like further questions then directly to Connor, if that's okay. So if you're finished there, Martin, I'll bring in now Alderman Kerrigan. Go ahead there, Keith.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. And Chair, thank you as well for allowing me to bring this forward at the meeting and chairperson's business. And I was able to propose that we do bring a presentation in from Vicky and the Recycle for Kicks count for KCNI and for Councillor O'Neill for seconding it. Chair, I do have to obviously declare the non-pecuniary interest there because my wife Ruth is involved in this as well. So, and as I say, I've been schooled and I've eventually kind of learned now that you don't fire in the crisp packet or the chocolate bar wrapper into the turf basket anymore. It all has to go into separate wee things. So you know, an old dog can be trained for new tricks here, Chair. So as I say, I'm well used to it now. What's meant to go where? But no, Vicky, the one that's done here. Other councillors and aldermen have already asked the questions and really relayed it, and I am glad that you've been able to come in and give the presentation. It's the case of, I see it as effectively a win-win here, because it's the potential here of trying to put less items into the black bin and into landfill. And as Ruth has stated, you know, our black bin would be set out there, and I know it's every 2 weeks it's lifted, might only be half full. You know, so I mean, there's a good off that time. So there's a good bit of stuff has been taken on, and it's just trying to get that. It's trying to get the message out, and again, it's for the charity as well, for the Kicks Count charity, that money's raised for that, with the potential to raise that, raising the awareness in regards to stillbirth. So I mean, I see that it is a win-win. It's trying now to see what we can do as a council to assist to a certain extent, and whether it's just the case, as you say, potentially of maybe some storage and maybe some bins, or maybe some areas to store stuff, potentially at some of our recycling centres or something else, or just trying to promote it, that we can try and publicise it. Or as you have stated, Vicky, there is enough items or waste or recycling that is out there that council can try to take it on. It's trying to see how do we do this. But again, it was one that Councillor Neil has touched on it there, that these blister packs, that's because I know there's a fortune of them about. Should it be with paracetamol tablets or whatever else it happens to be? Is there anything we can do? And I know, Vicky, you've touched on that, but again, that's kind of going to be a relayed question into Connor as well. But no, other than that, I am very happy with your presentation, the way it's done, and I've been very pleased with the response from the fellow councillors and aldermen. And thanks very much, Vicky, and thanks very much, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for putting this forward as well. And my husband's been doing this for 7 years and he still gets it wrong. We don't expect anyone to be perfect. We aim for about 80% accurate with our recycling. Still much better than supermarket recycling. So thank you very much. And anytime you want to come and train my husband, that would be brilliant.
Okay, thanks for that, Vicky. Just bring in Connor Canning now to for his comments just in regards of from a council officer perspective, and I know that Alderman Hussey has also got a question he'd like to ask. So, Connor.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not sure if Alderman Hussey wants to ask his question first, because he can indicate that he would direct it towards me.
I think, Chair, thanks, Connor. It's really to ask the obvious. Do you have comment on the scheme, and can you see what I think is there, the mutual benefit that is available to council via cooperation with the scheme here that Vicky and Ruth have been talking about? And is there room for further engagement with the likes of Vicky to take this forward on a wider basis throughout our council area? Obviously, I'm not talking in terms of council officers doing Vicky and Ruth's job, but where a helping hand can be available, we would be willing partners, shall we say. Thank you, Connor.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to Vicky for the presentation. Certainly informative, and I think members have articulated very clearly this council will be very supportive of these schemes. And there are things that we can do and can do very quickly. So I'll get our marketing team to touch base with you and see how we can promote and direct people up on our direct media platforms and link in with other accounts as well. So, for example, we are a partner in the Love Here initiative, and there's maybe more we can do through that, KNIB and so on. So there's a lot of, I suppose, connections we can make with regard to that we can take forward. And we have our own recycling apps and informative apps outside of Innovation, so we can certainly signpost and put the information up there directly, and keen to do that. There are other elements that certainly we'll be keen to move on, and those are local storage issues if we can help with them, certainly, and we can pick that up outside of the meeting. And finally, I suppose in terms of funding, there possibly will be opportunities to do community services, and I can again signpost you to them and see what opportunities are available in terms of drawing down some funding to support the scheme. There will be challenges in this, and I say this because, and from your own waste background as well, once you involve council, then it kind of involves regulation, and that kind of can sometimes work against these type of initiatives, and I'd be very minded that we would want to avoid that. But certainly let's have the discussion and see where we get to, and if that involves bringing our colleagues in terms of NIE, then we do that to try and eliminate any blockages that it may present. But it is a challenge in these types of initiatives generally, that the bureaucracy that surrounds them doesn't support that kind of grassroots intervention. But again, we have flagged this with NIE in terms of our own reuse schemes and so on, and we've asked them to look at amending legislation to make it easier for either communities or organisations to get involved. Again, mention has been made of some of the other policy initiatives coming forward, so EPR, enhanced producer responsibility, measures with regard to single-use plastic. And I suppose behind those, the objective is to try and capture more and more of that material, and to ensure that it is recycled, and to put obligations on the producers. And that, I can see how that would impact your scheme or this scheme. And again, that would need further discussion, I think, clarification at regional and national level to make sure that the benefits that your scheme and schemes like this bring are not lost on these kind of overarching schemes. So there's a lot of discussion ongoing at the moment. There are targets put forward and the amount of packaging waste that they expect to collect through these, and the obligations on producers. And I would guess that maybe that's why some of those, like your Walker's Crisps and so on, are really stepping away, because they see this coming, and they know that they'll have to participate in those larger schemes. Councillor Neal had asked a question about the recycling facility that a number of councils are developing, and that's to ensure we have greater control of the waste that we collect, and we have certainty around where it goes. And we are looking to maximise that in terms of the materials that we can collect, and certainly financial benefit that we can derive from the participating councils. And so that is something that we'll take forward. In terms of Councillor Riley's comments, shredded paper is a problem for the recyclers and their plant, and that it creates difficulties in the machinery and so on. That said, we've always taken shredded paper out of recycling centres in the paper banks, because that material generally goes direct to the mill, so it can be brought to recycling centres. But I'll check with the recycling centre operators in terms of the MRF operators, whether their position on shredded paper has changed. And again, blister packs, we've looked at some of this stuff in the past, and I think that Vicky had mentioned some of the the issues that you have to consider. Some of them come with tablets and medications in them, and there's things like storage that we have to consider from a health and safety perspective. But again, keen to have a look at it and see where we can assist. But it's, there'll be a few challenges, but nothing that I'm guessing we can't overcome. So certainly supportive of the scheme, and following today's meeting, I'll put Vicky in contact with our media officer, and we can move those things on immediately. And if there are short-term issues around bins and bin storage, we can look at those, and then we can open up a discussion on how else we can support the project moving forward. Thanks, Chair.
Can I just say that all sounds amazing, and thank you very much. Apart from the regulation, that doesn't sound amazing, but I was expecting it.
Thanks, Connor. I'm going to bring Councillor Neal back in here. She's wanting to make a proposal, so Maeve, if you'd like to put it under the chat box as well, so we can get a look at it.
It's literally just consolidating what Connor has just said. In terms of council convene a meeting and follow up, basically, with yourself, Vicky, with the Ruths, to just sit down and just follow up on all the things that Connor has just said around, because I think having that conversation around marketing, because I'm not sure how Ruth would like it marketed for Ruth O'Callaghan anyway, for the Derry City area, so I think sitting down and just coming together to figure out, should we establish a Derry Strabane hub, and how would that look? So that's all the proposal says.
Okay, thank you, Maeve. Councillors, Councillor Neal has the proposal there in the chat box.
That's a second, Chair.
I think Alderman Kerrigan has seconded it there, Derek, in the chat box. Members, as I say, you have the proposal there. It's been proposed and seconded. I don't envisage there'll be any opposition to it. So if there's any member wants to object or abstain, speak now. Otherwise, I'll take it as unanimous. So members, I'm going to take that as a unanimous support for Councillor Neal's proposal. Members, that brings us to the end of that item. So all remains is for me to thank again Vicky and to Ruth as well for their contribution to today's meeting. I hope you're satisfied with the questions and the comments from councillors, and the response then from Connor from a council officer perspective in terms of what council can do to enhance and promote the scheme. So Vicky, thanks again for your attendance, and wish you well for the future.
Thank you very much for having me and for letting me tell you all about this.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay, members, we'll move on now to our next item, which is item 6, Chair's Business, and you'll be delighted to hear that I don't have any specific business, and I wasn't contacted by any members. So that'll take us to item 7 then, which is matters arising from our previous meeting from last month. So for matters arising, members, pages 15 to 26. Any member with any matter, speak now. And we have Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, Chair, my issue is with a DFI policy, and I'm hoping you'll raise it under this item about DFI presentation, and I hope you'll indulge me. I promise to keep it short. Back in September, I wrote to DFI on behalf of residents at St. Canice's Park about lighting being removed to the back lane of the houses of many elderly residents. Unfortunately, DFI responded saying that due to their policy, they don't supply lighting in the back lanes, and they put the onus back on the residents to erect their own censored lighting. Chair, this is a lane that has many pensioners who are struggling to pay their bills, never mind paid for any lighting, as the lighting they had was removed by DFI. It's a matter of safety and making sure our residents feel safe and secure when they're accessing the back lane for simple tasks like putting their bins out, and to make sure that the area doesn't become an area attracting antisocial behaviour. Chair, I was hoping to just slightly propose that we write to DFI and express our concerns around the removal of the lighting of St. Canice's Park, and ask the department to look at possibly changing the policy. If not, that they could take into consideration case by case, because it's about this resident safety. They have said that it's been in place for 30 years, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's an effective policy, but it does need to be reviewed, because at the moment these residents are living with the worry that they can't see out the back of their lane. Chair, I'm just going to put the proposal into the chat box, and it just literally is that this committee will write to DFI to express our concerns around the removal of lighting at the rear of housing within St. Canice's Park, Eglinton, and ask the department to review and change the policy which states no lighting will be provided at the rear properties when the front access is eliminated. Is lit, as this policy places the safety of our residents at risk, and every request should be considered on a case-by-case basis. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Rachel. Councillor Hussey, you're wanting to comment there? I presume you're going to say what I was thinking in regards to this issue being raised previously in other areas of the council area.
Sure, I have a comment on there as well, if you don't mind.
Problem. Go ahead, Alderman.
Go ahead. Do you want to go first, Brent? I'm on the. No, you're exactly right, Chair. Whilst I accept Councillor Ferguson's point here, it might be stronger whilst highlighting the individual case if we were to generalise the letter going forward, because there are many issues. I've been involved in some, I'm sure others on this committee and throughout other representatives on council have had issues in various places where when schemes, new lighting schemes, etc., are going in, that we find light standards being taken away from areas that are not on the main routes. And I think it is a matter of personal safety and needs to be looked at. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Tierney.
Chair, thank you. And it's along the same point as Alderman Hussey. I would be more supportive of the proposal if it was generalised. Only on Sunday night I was dealing with a constituent who fell and broke her collarbone as she was trying to make her way down a laneway in Illickmore Park, which had been previously lit, and lights have been removed. So I would like, and I would appeal to Councillor Ferguson to maybe remove the reference to St. Canice's Park, Eglinton, and just have it right across our district, because we've discussed this many times in this committee and at full council, and people from every DEA and possibly every back alley are raising some of their concerns. And I think it would be more effective if we were looking at it across a council district as opposed to one particular street in one particular DA. But happy to support the proposal. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in, and I agree with the sentiments of the previous speakers. I think if the issue was generalised, because I think nearly every councillor in this committee, and even every councillor on an alderman on full council, could raise an area where this is an issue where they have removed backstreet lighting. And the difficulty I have with it, Chair, and I've said it often before, we have lobbied to have lights installed in these dark alleyways to, you know, make life safer for older community or elderly community and deal with some of the issues of hotspots and around antisocial behaviour. But as this has been raised before and time again, look, our party, the EP, is really, you know, we're content to support the proposal, and I see it has been generalised, because this is not an issue in my village, it's an issue across all the villages across our council area, and it is causing serious problem, and a lot of constituents out there are not happy, but happy to support the proposal.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. And I see in the chat box, Councillor Ferguson is content to generalise that letter. Just, Rachel, is it possible that you could amend it just for the ease of the admin staff there?
Chair, I've just removed St. Canice's Park Eglinton from it, and just where it says express our concerns of removal of lighting at the rear of housing and asset department. So if that's okay, or would you prefer me change it again?
No, that's fine, Rachel. I see there in the chat box, it's been seconded there by Councillor Tierney. Yeah. Councillor Tierney has seconded it there. Members, I presume we're all in support of the proposal. So I think that is unanimous. Okay. Any other matters arising? I see here we have sorry, Chris, were you looking in there? I'm just seeing your comment there.
No, it's okay, Chair. That was the confirm our support for the proposal.
Okay, sorry about that, Chris. I just missed your comment there. Alderman, sorry, Councillor O'Neill, and then Alderman Hussey. So go ahead there, Councillor O'Neill.
Chair, it was just on the point around the green growth strategy. And I'm just hoping to bring this on under here, just, you know, in terms of looking at green growth and what that means around the resources in our land. You know, such as when it comes to gold mining, and I'm not going to talk about my opposition to gold mining, as we've talked about this at length in council, but I just wanted to highlight that Dalradian have submitted 2 new applications for prospecting licenses to the Department of the Economy there, closing in April. So one of them covers Donamana, Claudy, Park and Fort Glen. And so I just wanted to ask a question, given our council's corporate position is opposed to gold mining, are we putting in an objection to this prospecting licence as a council?
Okay,
I'll need to just check what the council's corporate position is, and we'll advise the members once I have that.
Thank you, Connor.
Okay, Councillor O'Neill, have you a second item there?
Yeah, I actually have 3, but like I'm happy to take a break between them if whatever works. But just the second one is on the Don't Mow, Let It Grow point from the last meeting. So I know that many of us were at the glyphosate training there on Friday, organised by council for councillors here, and I thought it was really excellent. And obviously the Don't Mow, Let It Grow campaign as part of our actions around improving biodiversity and like changing attitudes towards the humble weed and things. And yeah, so I thought it was very, very helpful in terms of focusing our work, because obviously our council is committed to you know, not using glyphosate, but unless it's absolutely necessary. And I thought it was very interesting what was presented at this by the Pesticide Action Network, who had said that like it's really good to, you know, do an audit of where we're at and to trial different systems. But the key point that they made was about creating a task force, because, you know, council is obviously a small public body in terms of the grand scheme of public land that exists in our council area, such as you know, the Education Authority, the Western Trust, the Housing Executive, and DFI are also big landloaders in our landowners in our council area. And you know, we've recently had reports from those bodies around the use of glyphosate, around their use of glyphosate, and so as a council region overall, you know, we don't have a coherent strategy to eradicate the use of glyphosate, and so I just wanted to, you know, following on from that training and following on from the discussions that we've been having kind of over the last, you know, few months at council, was to look about creating a task force with these public bodies, but also with community representatives in developing a policy and a plan around the eradication of glyphosate use in our council area. I'll try, and I don't have this pre-written, so I'll maybe just put this in the chat box if that's okay, Chair.
So what's a proposal you're wanting to make there, Councillor O'Neill?
Yeah, for council to create a task force involving the Education Authority, the Western Trust, the Housing Executive, the DFI, as well as community representatives such as the Pink Ladies, the neighbourhood renewal partnerships, you know, all these, you know, players within our local community around eradicating the use of glyphosate. Just as per like previous council motions, which have committed to council not using glyphosate, but the training on Friday recommended that task force is set up in order for this to be the most effective, most effectively done.
Okay, get it in the chat box there. Members, while Councillor O'Neill's putting that in the chat box, I'll take Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. I did want to comment on the proposal when I seen it, but very quickly on E08, which was to do with the Christmas illuminations. And I said it yesterday at Business and Culture when Christmas came up in it. Feel a bit like I think it's the Park Shopping Centre. Sorry for mentioning Christmas so early. But on that, on page 18, Head of Environment expressed appreciation to members for positive comments in relation to the Christmas illuminations. Assured members that further engagement will take place with members and community groups in terms of provision of Christmas illumination program for 2022. I think there is a need for this to start early. So is there any indication of a schedule of engagement, particularly with some of our smaller rural community groups that will be taking place, because there is a desire in some places for a slight upgrading or a couple of extra lights in some smaller communities would make a tremendous difference. Thank you on that, Chair.
Chair, happy to take that. And just for, I suppose, Alderman Hussey, it's always Christmas and environment when we never really get away from it. We are, having a review just on where we're at this year in terms of the year just finished and looking at plans for next year. We have to get the tender documentation and specifications pulled together. So we intend to take forward those discussions with communities over the next number of weeks. As I say, we have to get the document ready to go out by certainly the end of April. So that's the timeline we're working to. So we'll come back through members and find out which groups specifically we need to engage with. Now we've captured a number of those. We know that members have brought forward a number of locations: Glenmornan, Killen, Newton Stewart, and so we have those identified already. And if there are further ones, we'll pick those up over the next number of weeks to make sure that we have a clearer picture and a fuller understanding of what the ask is this year.
Thanks, Connor. You okay with that, Alderman Hussey?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Obviously, we can move forward from what happened at the previous Christmas. So the assessment of that and the moving forward and taking on board various requests that not just myself but others throughout the chamber have had with regard to this particular issue. Very welcome. Thanks, Connor.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Moving back, folks, to Councillor O'Neill's proposal there, and see Councillor Ferguson is happy to second it in the chat box.
Chair, point of order.
Go ahead, Councillor Tierney.
Chair, thank you for letting me come on and raise this point. But is that not a motion that should be proposed at full council? It's not that I'm against the proposal, but I would like to consider the outworkings of it before it's been bunched on us and we're being asked to vote for it here. So I would like an opinion on whether or not that's a motion for full council, because as I understand it, Councillor O'Neill raised it at ER 18/22, which isn't even directly linked. What's in front of us isn't even directly linked to that actual proposal. So if I could just get an opinion on that first of all, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brian. I was kind of thinking the same myself, but I was happy to allow it on the basis that nobody had any objections to it. But the fact that you're saying that you would like more time to consider it, I would then ask Councillor O'Neill, would she be happy to move the motion or move the proposal to a motion at full council instead of making it as a proposal here today, given the fact that one of our councillors has asked for more time to consider it?
I suppose, Chair, it's it's a very specific environment and regeneration issue rather than cross-cutting across council. And as I said, we've discussed this. It wasn't at the last ENR meeting, but it was at the one before. This same conversation had been discussed at length, and the conclusion was for councillors to have the glyphosate training, which we did on Friday. So I was waiting for that training to bring this up again. So I feel that we've been discussing this quite a lot throughout my time on this committee, which isn't actually very long. So that's why I didn't think it was something that was sprung on, as Councillor Tierney has said, because it's been a topic of conversation throughout ENR meetings.
Okay, I'm just conscious we obviously don't have our legal representative here, but Connor, have you any comment to make on it? If not, I'll bring in other councillors here who've indicated to speak.
Yeah, Chair, I think it would be at your discretion whether you're happy to accept the proposal or to advise a member to bring it as a notice of motion. If members are so minded, they can defer it to full council in terms of further discussions on the matter. I'll certainly get advice on it and can advise you separately later, but I don't have that advice today. But I would imagine it's your discretion to advise a member accordingly.
Okay, Alderman Hussey, are you looking in here?
Yes, Chair. Members will recall the glyphosate issue was one that I had raised, and I think that information session that was held last Friday may have arisen from that. Unfortunately, I was on other council business out of the country and unable to get along to that. But I have looked at the papers that were presented. I'm sure there was a lot more than just those papers being presented. I'm not sure if the concern that I had of the difficulty that our own council's embargo on the use of this particular product is causing with the maintaining of what I would regard as an acceptable level of streetscape in many areas. I know when we did the walkabout in Castleberry, it was a question that I asked of officers who were on the ground with regard to weed control. And one of the big issues for council is that a proper and effective replacement for this particular product has yet to be developed. It is being developed, we were told, but isn't available on the market yet. So, you know, my issue is not so much with the glyphosate or any other product that's used. It's on the control of weeds on our streetscape, particularly once you move out of the city and the urban areas generally. Once you move out of city centres, etc., it's that, you know, the appearance of our streetscapes which needs to be maintained. So that is my issue rather than the product. Thank you, Chair. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. Councillor Donnelly.
Chair, thanks for letting me in. I'm not a member of the committee. Chair, I was at the training on Friday, and you know, this is a subject that we've been talking about for a long time. I think it was actually your party, Patricia Logue, your colleague, who brought the initial motion to the council. It has been talked extensively, and you know, if there's councils that are not up to speed on it, I think, you know, that they have the next, if this was passed today, they have the next fortnight until full council to do a bit of research, and then, you know, they can yea it or nay it at that stage. But I do think that this has been floating about now for a long time, and up until now it's more or less been aspirational. Whilst this is actually you know, a working group that, you know, will work through all the issues and hopefully bring results. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in. And look, I have no problems agreeing with the sentiments of the motion, but I do believe, like some of the previous speakers, our party would be happy to see it coming forward as a notice of motion to council to give us time to go back out to our requisite parties and discuss the ITER on a wider context, be prepared for it when it comes forward as a notice of motion. That'll be our opinion, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. And Councillor Ferguson.
Chair, thank you for letting me in. I'm happy to split it. I was actually at the training on Friday, and I think what the proposal is calling for as a task force is to work through that, because it was a very pragmatic conversation where we know that there's certain aspects in which we need to use glyphosate, but it was understanding that there is other techniques out there, but because the demand isn't there, it can be quite costly, which is why Maeve has bringing in the other agencies, because that could be shared amongst the other agencies if there was one plan for all in the area. So I think, like previous speakers, this is something that we've talked about and we've hoped to do, and we've kind of come up against a wall because we are the only ones doing it. So I think it's a very sensible proposal to try and get a working group so that we can bring those other statutory agencies and community partners in, because one of the main aspects of the training was that we need to bring the public along with us so that, you know, we don't get as many complaints about weeds and places looking untidy, and people understand that it's a, you know, it's a biodiversity issue. So Chair, I'm more than happy to support the proposal. I think it's a very timely one.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Chair. And it's, I suppose I just wanted to come in on the point that Councillor Donnelly had raised, that this was a motion that was brought by our party after very careful consideration and after collaboration with the Pink Ladies. And it wasn't something that we took forward lightly. It was something that was done. It was a very considered thing. But just on the aspect of pop-up motions and coming from committees, on the same point that Councillor Donnelly made, that every proposal from committee needs to go to full council. So there is that time frame for consideration to be taken, and I suppose there's that added protection around if people do need to read up on something, if they do need more consideration, they do have the time frame between now and full council to consider it. But just in terms of this proposal, if it's going forward, Chair, we would be fully supportive of it. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Chris. And Councillor Boyle.
Thanks, Chair. No, Chair, I put it under the chat box there just for your benefit and the benefit of everybody who's on the committee here as well. And that is to bear in mind that the deadline for notices of motion is has not passed for this month. The deadline, I believe, is Friday coming, and so therefore, there would be an opportunity, I think, for Councillor O'Neill to put this as a notice of motion, and then, of course, it does then buy everybody time to consider it, bearing in mind that notwithstanding everything that's just been said by Councillor Jackson and Councillor Donnelly, there is an opportunity and a mechanism to do it that way. The deadline hasn't passed, Chair, so I was really just feeding that in for just so we can perhaps focus on that element of it as well. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Boyle. Members, obviously there isn't an agreement on whether it should be taken now as a proposal or taken to full council, so I'm going to make a ruling that maybe you would consider, or that you would take it to full council, because there's 3 indicated parties here whose preference is for to take it to full council, which would then give them time to consider it in full, and I suppose answer it in full then when it is tabled as a motion at full council. So
Can I just check were any of them at the training, because this is the recommendation that's come from the training, so it's not something that's been sprung, and the training notes were sent out to everybody. So I just I feel there's a resistance here that is not necessary, considering the training was only 5 days ago.
Well, in fairness, the members weren't aware of the proposal or the wording of the proposal until now, so that's why I'm making my ruling that you should take it to full council as a full motion. So, members, we'll move on, and Councillor O'Neill, have you a third issue you'd like to raise under matters arising?
Yeah, again, it's something that has been discussed before. So this is about the RAP review. So that's around our zero waste circular economy strategy, about the collection methods. And obviously we agreed there at the last meeting that we would wait until the piece of work that RAP are doing with all the councils across the north is being released before we decide on a peer review for the Taggart research. So that's been discussed. But in reflecting on this, I kind of feel that this long process which has happened, where money has been spent, may not have happened in this way if the think and do tank, which is a policy from the zero waste circular economy strategy, had been up and running to guide certain processes like this, and the Council adopted in December 2017 the zero waste circular economy strategy, and there was a multitude of policies that came along with that. An update on that a few months ago on all the policies was presented. The think and do tank is one of the key outstanding policies which hasn't been, I suppose it hasn't yet been established. I'm sure there's been work on it from council officers, but I suppose I'm asking for an update on the think and do tank, And is it possible that this can be established within the next few months?
Okay, Connor, can I ask you to come on there?
Sorry, Chair, I just spoke to Philip on that last one, if you want some clarification on it. In terms of think and do tank, yeah, we are progressing with that at the moment, and the intention is to establish it through the strategic growth partnerships and take it forward as a combined piece of work through that. There are ongoing discussions at the moment in terms of that process, and I'm happy to update Councillor Neil outside of that in those discussions as we move forward.
Okay, thanks, Connor. Councillor Neil, are you content with that?
Yeah. So you're going to update me, Connor. I'd say, is it appropriate for an update to be shared with council as a whole, like for this committee? I mean,
Chair, happy to bring a report once we bottom out the detail around it, certainly into committee.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Neil. Members, moving on now to our next item, which is item 8, and it's bilingual signage at various locations. Is Frank, is it taking this?
Yes, it is. So members, this is an item just on 6 different roads that where our officers carried out a bilingual plebiscite. The results are set out on the second page of the item. In each case, the required minimum limit of 67% of occupiers was met, so it's proposed that the signage be erected in all 6 streets.
Okay, thanks, Frank. Proposed there by Councillor Kelly. Second, John, you'd be happy to second it, and Alderman Hussey, you want to comment on it? Go ahead, Alderman.
Thank you, Chair. It's comment, and I have a question to ask under 4.2. There are 6 roads there, and yes, they fulfill the criteria, but I have to look at that and say, for goodness sake, folks, is there not a nonsense in the parameters that we exercise with regard to such plebiscites? I mean, if you look at it, Main Street Collider, 1 response out of 13. Now, the response was positive, so that counts at 100%. I don't have much of doubt that other responders might have brought, we might have had the 60% actual responses as opposed to the positive responses. Polytein Road was less than 40% response of addresses. Eden Ray Road, 2 out of 7. And if you look at that, it would appear that there was 1 person out of 1 house who was against it, and 4 people out of another house who were for it, which suggests then that's why you have the 80%. What about the other 5 people, or the other 5 addresses on that road? Glebe Gardens, 15 out of 67. What about the rest of the people in those locations? I think there is a nonsense in the way that we are looking at this overall use of the percentage on the plebiscite. Then to my question, under 4.2, there are no legal, HR improvement or other implications for council. I noticed that one of the issues on that and the heading is financial. So can I ask how many signs are involved on these roads? Because you can't say it's one at one end and one at the other, because there will be crossroads, etc. So how many signs are involved, and what is the cost per sign? So there is a financial implication. So the recommendation, how much will it cost? This particular recommendation, and I wonder, all of the recommendations that we've had on this particular issue up to now, how much are they costing our ratepayers? Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I'm happy to answer those. In terms of your opinion on the policy, it is the policy, and officers are just implementing the policy as it's written. Councillor Hussey will be aware, I think that there's a motion of notice asking for consideration of adoption of a policy closer to that proposed in Belfast, and it is hoped that an update on that will be brought into next month's E&R committee. The matter's under review with Ellen Kavanagh, Karen Phillips and myself. And you may be aware the changed policy for Belfast is currently out for consultation, and it's hoped to incorporate the feedback from that consultation into the update report that will come through to members. So as I say, as of now, we are still operating through the old policy and can do no other as officers. In terms of cost per sign, I can get an average figure for that, and happy to share that with committee members. In terms of how many signs in each one of these streets, again, we could add that as a column to the tables going forward if that's what officers or if that's what members would like. In terms of the total cost and expenditure, I can get those figures. We're regularly FOI'd for that information, so it shouldn't be very hard to supply you with that information.
That's appreciated. Thank you.
Alderman Kerrigan.
Chair, apologies, Chair. Just coming on briefly, it was one road which I had raised again, and I have to apologise, Chair. My mod gov has went down again there, and so I have lost my agenda for today. So I'm just having a wee bit of difficulty. I'm trying to work through the email to try to keep on board with us. But it was just clarification there. Edenray Road, I was waiting, was expecting a wee reply to that, but I see it's been put through here. No, I had two residents in Edenray Road who maintained to me they hadn't received correspondence from council because, as I say, I know that road, there's 7 dwelling houses on it, and there's one of those is vacant after a death. So there's 6 houses, and from what has been raised to me, there'd be 5 of those houses would not be minded to be in favour of that. Now, 2 of them had maintained to me they had not received correspondence from council. So as I say, I've no issue if the other. I just have an issue with that particular road, just as the only one, Chair. So I don't know whatever you wish to do if you wish to pass the rest of them, but I know we'd raised that before because it wasn't on the table when it was raised at a previous committee meeting. So as I say, and then as I say, my apologies. Say it's my mod gov. I've been on to IT today, but we haven't been able to get it up and running. But so as I say, I just had a query on that one. As I say, whenever residents had told me they hadn't received correspondence, so I don't know how to deal with that one, or maybe do you want to leave it that we can raise it at full council, Chair, whatever is in your discretion. Thank you.
No, I'm happy enough for. I mean, if the officer wants to comment on that particular issue around Edenray Road that you're raising.
Yes, Chair. Yes, that was. We had been asked to bring that back in because there was a mistake in the previous. I think it was December's report, and it wasn't followed through in the table, so that's why it's included there now. In terms of the 2 occupants saying they didn't receive the letters. All I can check is where the letters issued out of council. We'll have a record of what was, which properties were written to, and I can confirm that those letters went out. Whether they were received or not, obviously that's not something we would be able to establish.
Okay, thanks, Frank. Councillor Jackson.
Chair, I just wanted to come on to highlight my frustration in a way that this same conversation is happening month in, month out, and for somebody with the experience of Alderman Hussey, I find it I find it amazing that he hasn't grasped the simple concept of democracy, and that's something that well, I just simply don't believe that he doesn't grasp it. And I know there was there have been an attempt to change the policy and to apply a different policy on this very issue, which had been called in, which would have addressed some of the issues that that Alderman Hussey had raised. But if we're struggling to grasp the simple concept of democracy, we've got difficult times ahead. But I just want to leave it at that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Members, there's no other indicated speakers here, so I take it the report needs or the recommendations need a proposer and seconder.
Is that not proposed by Dan Kelly and seconded by John Boyle?
Oh yeah, thank you, Councillor McGinley, for reminding me.
Chair, I propose the full report, and I'm happy that that proposal stands.
Yeah, and seconded by Councillor Boyle. My apologies.
Chair, John Boyle here, just to confirm, yes, Chair, I am still content to, notwithstanding everything that everybody said, to second the proposal as put forward by Councillor Kelly, and I also share similar frustrations to those that have been outlined by Councillor Jackson. Just to put that in the record. If there's a plebiscite carried out, Chair, as you know, and everybody in this committee knows, we can only take the responses that we get. And I would always be working on the assumption that if people are not responding, then they are not troubled by the proposal. If they were troubled by it, then they would surely write into us.
Yeah. Members, can I take the recommendation as unanimous, or is there any members who wish to object or abstain?
Chair, if you're all right, I'll abstain on the grounds of the Eden Ray Road issue, but other than that, I'll Chair, that's the only one. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Alderman.
Chair, I'll abstain as well, Alderman Devaney.
Okay.
Also abstaining, Chair, on the basis that the officers to get back with some figures on that. Thank you.
Okay, so we have abstentions from Alderman Hussey, Alderman Devaney, and Alderman Kerrigan.
And Alderman Ramsey on that Eden Ray Road one.
Okay, Alderman Ramsey abstains as well. Is that everybody? So on that basis, members, we'll move on then now to our next item, which is item 9, Sustainable Northern Ireland 2022.
Okay, Chairman. This report seeks to approval in relation to continued support for sustainable NI. In the background section there, there's details there of previous reports setting where this approval has been provided in the past, and also details a presentation made to this committee previously by Sustainable NI. In key sections or key issues there's a long list of details of the sort of work and Sustainable NI carries out in this important area, and Council's engagement with them. So in terms of implications, there are no equality, rural needs, climate change, data protection, legal, HR, or improvement implications in this report. Council have received a request for continued financial support from Sustainable NI to the value of £6,000 excluding VAT, and a copy of the subscription request is included in Appendix B. Their annual report is also appended to the report. So the recommendation is members are asked to endorse the membership offer and approve annual financial support drawn from the existing budgets for Sustainable NI for 2022-23 to the value of £6,000.
Thanks, Frank. And this in the chat box that has been proposed there by Councillor Kelly and seconded by Councillor Boyle. There's no further indicated speakers. So members, can I take recommendation or proposal as unanimous? Yeah. Okay then, members. That brings us to item 10, which is extension of contract for the provision of miscellaneous cleansing works.
Thanks, Chair. This is to seek members' approval to extend the current contract for the provision of miscellaneous cleansing works for one further year in line with the contract. Members should be advised that the contract was procured in line with Council's procurement exercises and deals with the provision of cleansing services across the city and district. where we need to engage external contractors. As per the conditions of the contract, the client may at any time before the completion of the contract invite the contractor to agree a further extension, and we're seeking members' approval to extend at this point in time.
Yeah, thanks for that, Connor. And it's been proposed there by Councillor Devaney, seconded by Councillor Boyle, and Alderman Hussey. You've indicated to speak.
Thank you, Chair. No problem with the proposal and second the recommendation. Could we be reminded of the range, type and locations of cleaning services across the city and district that we're looking at on this item? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Primarily relates to clearing of fly tipping and indiscriminate dumping and litter picking along arterial routes. Those are the two main services provided for within the contract.
Okay, Alderman.
Yeah, Chair, did Connor say litter picking?
Yeah, Chair, litter picking along arterial routes.
Arterial routes?
Yeah.
Right, okay. No, nothing on the other routes, that's covered by council staff, is that correct?
Yes, Chair, that's all covered internally by our own teams.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Alderman. Same members, it's been proposed and seconded. There's no further indicated speakers. Unless there's any abstentions or objections, I'll take that as unanimous. So moving on then, members, items 11 to 15 is for information. Has any member anything they wish to raise under the items for information? Councillor O'Neill. Oh boy.
Sorry, item 13. So like I think since our last council meeting, they had a stakeholder group with the local community and different groups, and they also had a separate group with councillors. And I know that they're planning to kind of further have a bigger meeting. Look at the remediation, so I think that's very positive and that's very welcome. I think the new official narrative about dispelling the myth that the A6 runs right through my boy is disingenuous, as within that report, because it was always known that the proposed road line impacted the age of the dump, and this was discussed at that meeting there in January, and that it encroached into an area where waste is buried under concrete. And official records actually show that it was citizens who exposed this when the roads officials and the Minister of the Environment at the time, Minister Durkin, tried to deny that the road line impacted illegally buried waste. So it was just to highlight that point, that was, I think, disingenuous to say that we always knew that the A6 was to run along the edge. And just to reiterate the point that any, if we were to resurrect the A6 stretch from Dromahota to Kempsey, it will require a new EIA, HRA, and the public inquiry. I know that DFI haven't committed that this will happen, but I think we as a council need to continue to call for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. And Councillor Tierney, item 14.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Chair, and it's really a quick one just to ask, as a council, are we planning on responding to the consultation from DFI? Thank you.
Chair, happy to respond. Yeah, we'll prepare a response to the consultation.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay, members, I don't have any further indicated speakers on items for information, and I'm conscious that it's 10 to 6. Are members happy to take a 10-minute comfort break, and we'll come back then and go on the seal? Yeah, so see you back here at 6 o'clock. Is that okay? Okay, members, it's just gone 6 o'clock there. Could I have a proposer and seconder to go on the seal, please?
Oh, Chair John Boyle.
Councillor Boyle and a seconder. Don't be shy now.
Seconded, Chair.
Councillor Kelly. Okay, ma'am.
Can we ask IT just confirm that we're offline and then confidential, please?
Yeah, we'll wait for that.